It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Professor Yechiel Charles Siegman. We're here in your beautiful home in Jerusalem.
You want me to
Yes,
full?
Please.
Okay. Thank you for the privilege of sharing my experiences and reflections of being a child survivor. I am Charles Yechiel Siegman. I was born in 1935 in Scheveningen, Holland, a beach resort near The Hague, the youngest of 5 children. Our parents operated a wholesale stationery business, specialty stamp collectors business. When the Germans invaded Holland in May 1940, they took command of the radio utilities, railways. Over time, restrictions were imposed. News were required to wear a Jello Star David Yoda. They are no longer permitted to mix with errands. 3 were evening curfews, and Jews were not allowed to leave the country. Jews were selectively arrested and sent to Westerbork, Holland, major concentration camp. I started first grade in that environment and sensed things at home were no longer the same. Conversations by our parents were hushed. Our food was limited because our parents' business was suffering. Our parents decided to split the family and placed the 3 youngest children, Leo, Lily, and myself, in safe places. We were placed at homes of new nursing mothers, hospitals, and then an orphanage. Meantime, our parents and 2 older brothers, Aaron and Yosef, waited anxiously at home for papers for a neutral country that relatives in Switzerland were arranging. Our father would pick us up from the same homes in morning to go to the synagogue and check on our welfare. One morning, when he did not appear, we realized that our parents and brothers had been rounded up for deportation to Westerbork. The last memory I have of my father was sitting on his lap with big tefillin on his head. The pattern of the Nazis was that those on the transport list would be packed into the cars on Monday evening and shipped in Auschwitz or Sobibor. Our parents and brothers were put shoot. Yes. Okay. Do it over different.
On such.
Okay. The pattern of the Nazis was that those on the transport list would be packed into cattle cars on Monday evening and shipped into Auschwitz or Sobibor. Our parents and brothers were put on such a list a few weeks after arriving in Westerbork. From the cattle cars, people threw out postcards or letter, which many locals posted on. We received a postcard where our mother told us to take good care of each other and reminded us that we have relatives in Switzerland. Our older brother added the Hitvaot. This was the last we heard from our parents and brothers. Upon their arrival in Auschwitz, they were immediately gassed. We 3 children were now on our own. A few weeks later, the Nazis rounded up the children, including ourselves, from orphanages in Holland to be deported to Westerbork. There we faced the same fate as our parents and brothers. However, there was an outbreak of scarlet fever in the children's barracks. To protect their soldiers, the Nazis put quarantine on the children's barracks. In this time, Honduran, quote, papers arrived, but unfortunately too late for our parents and brothers. These papers spared us from being transported to death camps and changed our status. We were requested to appear before the Gestapo. While waiting in line, a Dutch lawyer advised my brother to tell the Gestapo that we had relatives in Switzerland. Leo was asked whether we spoke Honduran. We told them we had relatives in Switzerland and mumbled other responses. To this day, we don't know whether the Gestapo posed a trick question or didn't know that the language spoke in Honduras was Spanish. After a year in Westerbork in February 1944, we were sent to Terezen in Czechoslovakia. Terezen was used for people with privileged status, such as the leader of the World Reform Movement of Rabbi Leon Beck, former Prime Minister of France, Leon Blum, the psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, scientists and other dignitaries. Well, conditions in Terezen were better than death or slave labor camps. They were very meager. For a child I led a draft life. I did not have steady friends. As new people kept arriving and leaving. When there were youngsters, we played with a Monopoly game made out of paper, used a tin can for a football, and roamed around permissible barracks. Religious observances were limited. In the Jewish Council building, there was a minyan in Shabbat scheduled early to enable inmates to go to work. Around Pesach, Leo and I saved our potato rations for Lily to bake matzah for Pesach. Lily's version is that she was given the potatoes to bake a birthday cake for her. Leo became bar mitzvah in January, and the people helped him prepare. A Czech scientist who had 2 sets of tefillin, Leo gave his small tefillin. The Nazis, rising hardships, were eager to acquire medicines and critics supplies for waging the war, and sought the support of the International Red Cross. Before our arrival, the Nazis took a section of Terezen, beautified it by transforming it into a functioning resort with cafes, a football field, falls, money, flower shops, concerts, and the like. They selected Czech-speaking people so that the Red Cross would not be able to converse with them. Then invited the International Red Cross to inspect how well the Jews there living in Terezen. They were escorted to the new resort, bypassing the rest of the camp. The delegation fell for this propaganda ruse and agreed to obtain the items requested by the Nazis. The Nazis made a propaganda film of the resort to counter charges that they were mistreating the camp inmates. They even used a press release that declared, quote, "While the Jews are sitting in cafes, drinking coffee, eat cake, and dancing, our soldiers have to bear all of the burdens of a terrible war, its miseries and deprivations, for defend their motherland." After the delegation left, the Nazis destroyed the resort and transported to Auschwitz all whom were involved in the propaganda. In order to destroy evidence of this fraud, and prevent those who were forced to be part of the scheme from revealing that the resort was staged. Nevertheless, the Red Cross, as a goodwill gesture, offered 10 take in 1,000 of the inmates who had connections to Swiss citizens. We were advised to forego this offer as it might be a ruse. The inmates who did go to a freedom train were asked to report back by the following code. If correct, write back a particular phrase, but if not, price another phrase. As it turned out, the train did not go to Switzerland, and we missed that opportunity.
It did go. The train did go.
It went to Switzerland.
Yes, it did.
Hmm?
The train did go.
Yeah, you're coming. The war took a turn.
Okay, it did go, yeah.
The war took a turn for the worse of Germany, and they decided to accelerate the transports initially to Auschwitz and later to other death camps. We were rejected for the next train that we were told was going to Switzerland, but instead went to a death camp. We were then put on the next list, but someone distantly related to us went to the Jewish Council and asked them to leave the children alone. The scarcity of working railroads of the Germans made them decide to bring the gas to Terezen, and a gas chamber was built, but fortunately never used. We were again put on a list, unaware of the new gas chamber in Terezen. However, with the Germans now focused on destroying evidence and escaping themselves, so once again we were spared. At roll call now, we saw the Russians approaching and watched the Nazis fleeing with their bags. One soldier threw a hand grenade at us for good luck. Fortunately, it did not go off. The formal liberation by the Russian army took place on May 9, 1945. The Russians shared their rations with the inmates and tossed candies to the children. My first candy in 2.5 years. At the same, I saw a Russian soldier grab a watch from a woman, and later I learned that some soldiers assaulted the women. We were fortunate to be liberated by the Russians, who had limited food supplies compared with the British, the Canadians, or Americans, who opened their kitchens and many people got sick and some died, and they couldn't absorb the volume of the rich foods. We had relatives in Holland who survived the war in hiding. Joseph and Peppy Berger. When they learned that we survived, they took the three of us. The Berger's two children were hidden separately and had to leave elsewhere when we arrived. We started the Jewish school, but in lower grades, of course. We also went Hachshara in Hilversum on Sundays with Berger's children who were planning to go on Aliyah. We stayed with the Bergers in Amsterdam for almost a year. 75% of Dutch Jewry was killed in the Holocaust, the highest percentage in Western Europe. Survivors who started coming back to Holland wanted to get out of Europe as quickly as possible. We heard horror stories of what people went through. When parents who placed their children in the custody of the church, such as convents, wanted to retrieve them, they often met with resistance by the church and sometimes by the children as well. I remember the distinguished Chief Rabbi Herzog with his top hat, who went through Europe to deal with the problem, coming to our synagogue in Amsterdam, and when we was on this difficult mission, and he shared tragic stories with the public. The Bergers made constant with our mother's sister in Zurich and our father's brother in New York. Both wanted all three of us, but it was decided that Lily would go to Zurich and us boys to New York, where we would get a good yeshiva education. In mid-June of 1946, the Joint arranged to pick up children in Europe who were heading to the United States. We traveled on the Marine Flasher in New York. We were raised by our uncle Mendel and Aunt, a Marine Flasher, okay. We were raised by our uncle Mendel and Aunt Susie Siegman, who had 6 children of their own. They provided for all our needs, for which I am eternally grateful. In contrast of my contrast, the most lost children where I went through war and lost my parents and brothers. My subsequent life had been very rich and fulfilling. I had a comprehensive secular and yeshiva education and university education as well. I had a wonderful career, teaching economics for 9 years at the college level, followed by working for 31 years at the U.S. Central Bank in center positions, and then as an advisor at the IMF, International Monetary Fund. I am blessed with a wonderful...
You're blessed with a wonderful wife.
Yes.
And you've been married for over 60 years?
60 years, yes. 4 children, 13 grandchildren, and 60...
It's 10 now.
6-year great grandchildren. Ken Yerbu. We are grateful for the privilege of living in Israel, something our parents and grandparents could not have dreamt out. We are proud of 5 grandsons who served in the army, and the 4 granddaughters who served in Sherut Leumi. As I reflect on being a child Holocaust survivor, I realize that I was not on the driver's seat. I didn't do anything to survive. Neither my strength nor my wisdom. Decisions were made by others. I felt like I was driftwood. But my fate was determined by Hashem's visible hand. Being a survivor did not entitle me to special privileges of excuses for any shortcomings, while never forgetting the loss of parents and older brothers. I was determined to be forward-looking. I value education after being deprived of education as a child. I want to be judged by my achievements and not for being a Shoah survivor. For many survivors, their war experiences presented a challenge to their faith. Where was God? Why did He allow this to happen? But the question should be, where was civilized man? Nazis were determined to destroy not only the Jewish people, but also Judaism itself. Abandoning my faith would have meant giving the Nazis a victory. The importance of a strong Israel cannot be overestimated. With very few exceptions, the civilized world closed their borders to Jews who were facing extermination. The British mandate closed doors to Palestine and sent boats back to Europe. Canada's policy was none is too many. The United States did not fill quotas for European countries, etc., etc. The Jews now have a welcoming haven in time of need. Therefore, we must give Israel full support. It is essential that the world remembers the Holocaust. This urgent, as the survivors will not be with us longer to bear witness. It is frightening to know that there are people who deny that the Holocaust happened. I am a witness today, and I urge you to take on the role of being a witness about Shoah in the years to come. After the war, the anti-Semites went underground for a while, but now there is a widespread public resurgence of anti-Semitism with spills over into anti-Israel propaganda hate. Finally, Germany came close to winning the war. Fortunately, they did not succeed. Therefore, in a sense, we all are survivors.
Amazing. And I just want to show you have this most beautiful picture of your, say, nekama and nechama, your revenge and your comfort. And this is a picture of your family, Ken and Hora.
It was our 60th anniversary.
Your 60th anniversary.
Yes.
60th.
It's just so beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
So, and may we stream in good health and happiness and smachot. And I just want to again thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you. It's just been the greatest honor and privilege.
No,
I think I'll make a
I
little
want to
lunch
thank
now.
I just want to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much. And you should
I'm
only.
gonna make a little lunch.
No. It's just, okay. So, okay. No. I have to go. Just 1 minute.
it's okay.
So, Prof, I just want to thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been such a great honor and a privilege.
Yeah.
And from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful to you. You should only have mazel bracha, and appreciate, you telling the most amazing story of the miracles that you endured.
Unfortunately, you have more people.
I know, but it's very special, and I'm extremely grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And what is interesting is for different groups, I have sometimes to emphasize.
Well, I think that
things.
you excelled, and it's been such a privilege.
Okay.
Thank you so much.